Wow. Wow.
There it was. I don't know what's going on. Hello and welcome to Strange Conversations. I am one of your co-hosts, Brent Metcalf. Alongside, on my right, back from the dead, he is revived, healed.
John Pettit. Handsome John.
Thank you. On my left.
Which left?
I don't know, I have to figure it out.
Mark Lower.
Wow, he answered first.
I wasn't going to let him have the upper hand. No way.
Each and every week we gather together to give you guys news that we find to be important, and we dub it.
Brent Metcalf is his name.
I already said it. I said it was first.
What's
Yeah.
worse is I didn't notice it at all.
I changed up the freaking formula.
Because after you said
That's
John,
what
I was like, he's
last
not
time
doing
too,
it.
so we wouldn't
He's
forget.
not doing it.
It's yours. I was trying.
Are we gonna do the section that we all say in unison?
I mean, we can. It's fine.
We could.
Yeah.
We could do topics first today.
I mean, that's fine with me.
damn.
No,
So-
my
but-
topic has to go last.
Exactly, I know, because somebody's a prima donna. But every single week, we like to take the important things we find all week: news, gaming, tech, entertainment, everything. We call it the important.
I was waiting for someone to do something. I was like, I'm not going to be a part of this.
The first thing that I wanted to bring up is somewhat out of the order of our note section here, but I thought it was hilarious because this guy following named Boss Logic somewhat called it, and it's Henry Cavill. Is it Cavill?
Mm-hmm.
Cavill is cast for The Witcher.
Correct.
But this Boss Logic dude, like 6 months ago,
Oh,
made a
called
poster.
it? Yeah,
made a poster about
That's
it.
the guy that played Superman, right?
Yeah, he's the guy who played Superman. What's interesting is that there's lots of little stories here. Like, one, Cavill's a huge gamer, which a lot of people don't realize because he's jacked and looks like a jock. But
Like he has no other time
yeah.
to just work out.
he nearly missed the casting call for, I think it was for Superman, because he was in a WoW raid. Like,
That's
the
amazing.
dude
That's awesome.
is a straight up nerd and has said before that he would love to play Geralt. He likes the character, he loves the world.
Can you say his name one more time?
Geralt,
Okay.
I believe is how it's pronounced.
I just always guess
Okay.
that.
So,
Gaston.
so it was really interesting when this casting came out because a lot of people were looking at like Mads Mikkelsen or some other European actor to take over, and here we are with Henry Cavill, whom the internet was kind of like split. Half of them were like, the other half's like, this looks great. The casting director revealed that this was the only person they looked at for Geralt
That's amazing.
because he had so much passion, and she was blown away by his audition. She was like, that's it. Like, this is him. So hopefully that means there's going to be some good things coming from it. But, you know, overall, I think he's going to be okay. I never played The Witcher, but I did read the first book. I'm starting to read more of them, and I thoroughly enjoy that world. I don't think he's a bad actor by any stretch of imagination, but I also don't think he's had anything to like really flex that dramatic muscle. And so hopefully this will allow him to do so.
That's cool. I think he's in a unique position, though, because he's already kind of an actor.
Mm-hmm.
So he can sort of wiggle his way into this position if he wants to. But granted, this is a guy with a lot of passion for this.
Yeah.
So it's great that they're kind of, I guess, taking more from, I guess he's 50-50 from the acting community as well as, you know, the Witcher community. So
Correct. And I think the only big thing that I have a worry about is the voice, because Geralt's voice is very distinct, it's very gravelly, kind of low, it's like, "Ugh." And Cavill, I mean, he's only played essentially Boy Scouts or like really posthumous people. So posthumous, even a word? Who knows?
I feel like
Yeah, sure.
James
There's
Bond,
no-
Mission Impossible, I feel like wasn't a great boy. I mean, he kind of was like a, I don't know, kind of a baller to me.
I mean, he was like a bad Boy Scout, but he was
Yeah.
Boy Scout nonetheless.
He was a Boy Scout with dirty deeds.
But yeah, so what I was trying to find real quick is Boss Logic had tweeted this photo from a very long time ago of him, which I can put on here. It's hard for me to show you guys, but I'll put on the screen right now. But he posted this photo of like a Henry Cavill, like Photoshop to be Geralt, how you say it. But then Netflix replies to him, and basically it said, "You made such a compelling case, we just couldn't say no."
I wish they would do that with Nathan Fillion.
God, that'd be super nice. I know. Talking about an Uncharted television show on Netflix.
That'd be awesome.
I think anyone could pick that up and be great. That's probably one of the very few times I don't care if HBO picks it up. But normally I'm always like, I would be happier if HBO picked this up.
Just for the production value.
Yeah.
I'm happy about HBO's production value so far. I'm concerned about their future with them being owned by AT&T and what their like whole head has this is a complete tangent.
It is.
Where they basically like, hey, we understand that you guys make like 7 great shows a year. We want you to triple that amount, and we're going to staff up
0 at the 7.
Yeah.
At the 7.
Yeah,
Just 70.
We want to become the next Netflix. And
Yeah.
they're like, that's not how we work here. There's a reason why this works.
Yeah.
Is because we're not Netflix.
We're a different formula.
But I guess we could transition this into a really fun segue. Speaking of acquisitions,
Oh,
Nordic acquires Kingdoms of Amalur, which is the old what was the pitcher for baseball who owned that studio?
I knew his name until you said
If anybody's
pitcher,
gonna know,
and
it's
then
you.
I completely forgot. I know it too because he was.
It's not Roger Clemens. It's
You can look it up while I talk. So it was owned by 38 Studios. He was the co-founder of it. They went
Kurt Schilling.
Thank you, Kurt Schilling. They went bankrupt because they were not paying back loans due that they owed the state of Massachusetts.
38 studios, and none of them had money.
Such a weird thing because there's some confusion as to how the money was supposed to be handed out, and tangents aside. Kingdoms of Amalur was a game that came out on the PS3, 360. I think it came to PC as well.
Yep.
Very much like cult classic. Like
cult darling.
Yeah,
For sure.
lots of people were excited about it, but it really didn't garner much. But they were working on a second one plus an MMO. All that scrapped.
Yep.
So the thought process right now is that THQ Nordic now owns all of that. EA had a very loose publishing deal with them. They're the ones who published the first game, but it's not like they earned profits off of it. It's very similar to what they do with the indie studios. Yep. So they would still have to communicate with EA if they're going to do a remaster, but overall, this is their area to play in. So
what I thought was really fascinating in the original story, because I actually didn't mind the game at all. I thought it was pretty cool. And because I'm a baseball nerd, I was like, oh, this is really cool. Kurt Schilling is like a big baseball player, super historic dude. And apparently he dumped like a very large chunk of his life savings into this. Like a lot of his baseball money got poured into this, and it didn't work.
No.
And the messed up part of it is they were getting kickbacks from the state.
Yeah, well, the state, that's where it failed, is honestly the game itself probably would have done well had they just been able to keep it afloat, but the state wanted their money back right away, where they didn't understand how games make money and where that money comes from. It was all this confusion, and so it was frustrating.
Imagine a world where they were actually in charge, like had the stake in Fortnite.
Yeah. Oh man.
Richest state in the world.
But I'm excited.
Needs it.
I'm really excited to see this come to Switch. Like, I would love to play this game on Switch. I would love to play a game anywhere.
It is very similar to me of the Diablo vibe of that, of how I feel towards you, of like, just play it on a fucking console.
I'll play it. I'll
Port
play it.
City.
Port City.
Switch is a console, sir.
Thank you.
It's a handheld.
It's a console. Ask Nintendo.
Little ends falling off their building.
Why you just stare at me when I drink water?
Because I'm waiting for you to get to my next topic. I don't even know what it is.
Oh, you're so excited. You're just trying to derail
I
us.
honestly don't remember what it was.
Because it is your boys delaying things because of failures in Port City.
Wow.
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 He just like watching you squeeze the sack and taking liquid in your mouth.
I don't
I was like,
understand.
I'm going to drink this before I talk again. And Brent's
What
just
is
like,
happening?
Oh my.
Oh my lordy. Oh my lordy.
what are you looking up? It's the Nintendo Direct is leading towards.
It's actually not them delaying stuff, but that was delayed.
Yeah, that was
the
delayed.
Nintendo Direct was delayed. It's actually talking about the cloud saves and how some of the games won't support cloud saves.
What I thought was super weird
Wait,
about
what?
I can explain this.
No, I know that. Never mind.
Before that happens, what was really weird about the Nintendo
Maybe I'm wrong.
Direct
That was
is
one of
that
mine.
that morning they were like, oh yeah, or I saw
No, it's
online
me.
everyone who's like, oh yeah, they're gonna totally have a Nintendo Direct today, and I was like, I think I sent it to you,
Yeah.
and I was like, yeah, hey Brent, you want to check us out today? And then nothing happened. I was
Nothing
like,
happened.
what the?
The funniest thing to me about the Nintendo Direct had to have been I listen to a lot of podcasts, some of them daily, including Kind of Funny Games Daily, and they're like, we're going to have so-and-so on to talk about Nintendo tomorrow, and then it came and was like, and it didn't happen, guys, so we don't get to talk about it. The weirdest thing about it, though, is that all these games were lined up to be announced there, and so because they didn't get the announcement,
It's all got leaked.
They got it not leaked. There was official announcements just in the weirdest ways possible. Where some trailers were just like, hey, we're dropping a trailer now. Some people just appeared on the online store where they're there and you could pre-order them. Like all of
Did
these.
they say why it was delayed?
Because the earthquake. There was an earthquake in Japan, and there were people who were still missing. Some people were dead, and so the company just didn't feel comfortable trying to do something cheerful, essentially. in that moment, especially when they weren't sure where some people were at the time.
What was the magnitude of it?
I honestly don't remember off the top of my head. I think it might have. I don't think it was huge. It was like a 3.8 or a 4, but it was enough that.
I always
That's what she
think magnitude in that context is just. I never know which way to go with it. Like, do you mean the actual numerical magnitude, or do you mean like how severe this is? I was trying to super out
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, based on the number, you understand the magnitude of the situation.
In the whole debacle, there's a couple of games that came to mind that I was really excited about. My one mobile game I was playing, Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition, is getting an HD edition. It's coming to Switch.
Didn't they? It's not an exclusive, but they did say the Killer Queen be black.
Killer Queen Black.
Killer Queen Black. Is that just Switch? Or is that everything?
Yes, that's just Switch.
Just Switch, okay.
Just Switch. They announced that beforehand, though.
Just to
They just
clarify,
had a trailer.
is that the Killer Queen game like you find
At the arcade.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah. Correct. So they're bringing it down from 5v5 to 4v4 because it's just easier to keep on the screen. But yeah. No, I'm sure it can handle it.
Yeah,
It's literally a pixelated
It's literally a two-dimensional game.
They
Like,
probably tested it and it was just getting to be too much.
It probably just couldn't even run. His frame rate drops all the time. It's almost like the weird concept of you should be able to cloud save games. That's weird
I
how
like what you're doing.
it's weird how that didn't happen.
I love your voice. Or your voice,
Go
your
on.
face. I love it. I love everything about you. The right now there's an official list out right now. I'm sure it was going to be talked about during the games, during the Nintendo Direct.
Mhm.
But right now they're looking at a lot of games aren't going to have cloud save that were previous to the cloud save. So stuff like that would give an advantage, like Splatoon 2 won't have it. But there's a lot of things that we still don't know if they will or not. There are games that we do know that will, like Zelda and whatnot, will have cloud save.
What kills me though about it just bothers me how that's not a launch feature so much, because I saw so many people for the first year of Zelda being like, "Hey, I broke my Switch and I put 200 hours in this game. I got to restart," and it's like, you're just an a-hole.
Yeah.
Well, not like that, but you
Jesus.
have to pay the freight for the cloud save backup. It doesn't just become a part.
You have to pay for the online to get cloud save, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
What? $20.
Yeah,
A
$20
A year. It's not
Which,
bad.
granted, Xbox and PlayStation have this same feature. There's just a difference is that when you pay, you have a certain amount free. It's just incredibly minimal.
Yeah,
You
but
get a
also
lot more when you're part of
I can pull
PlayStation
my hard
Plus.
drive out with my
That is
save
true.
files
That
and
is
put
true.
it in the next one.
Yeah, that's the crappy part is they have 32, they have SD card slots, but all the saves are not put there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
There's
put
no way
on
to
the
transfer
actual
slaves.
memory.
Yeah, it freaking blows my mind.
Which you can't transfer even if you destroy it. Because I saw somebody break one, intentionally break one trying to test this, and they're like, "Yeah, you just can't.
Yep,
Yeah.
it's gone
system
forever.
locked."
Yep.
Basics, honestly. Like, this should be
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah, it's really frustrating.
It's almost like a handheld limitation.
It's
a console limitation.
Oh, is it a console now? The the thing that bothers me is you think that they would learn with Sony and how the Vita kind of suffered because of the proprietary memory. Now this isn't necessarily proprietary, but the limitations mimicking this, you would think that would have been better.
The games make sense for the most part. Like Splatoon 2 won't have it because they have an online ranking, and they don't want you to try and cheese it if you go down in ranking because they save it locally. Now I think some games will find workarounds. Like if they have an online ranking that's on a server, you can always just utilize that. It blows my mind that it's saved locally. Actually.
Yeah, I know.
And that's the only way that it's saved.
When they were, I had to
no sense.
reread that, and I was having trouble trying to figure out why. I'm like, it would be saved online. Why would that matter for the cloud save? And now it does.
Yeah. Pokemon is one that also makes sense.
Yeah,
because
that's right.
they don't want people to trade online and then all of a sudden reset, load from a previous save. Now you have that Pokemon that you just traded. You're duplicating Pokemon. So there are ways around this from a programming standpoint that I'm sure they will put into place eventually, but it just means that these games won't have it when it first comes out.
What if
that's
you
sad.
had an original Switch and then you got the Pokemon Switch?
Well, it'd be preloaded for you.
Why do you keep interrupting? We're not done talking.
It was you loaded the Pokemon transition so well, and I was like, yes, he knows. And then you're just like, wow.
Go ahead.
He's trying really hard. These transitions are actually going really well today.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, when I put my stuff on the thing, I try to make sure Nintendo goes with Nintendo on the same line. It's
Yeah.
really cute.
But it was actually in reverse order in the notes, so I had to,
I
Like a
purposely
snake.
move them
Yeah,
everywhere.
did you? Because
He
I thought
probably
I put
does.
it on the same level. He's a little demon.
But no, the Nintendo Switch is getting a new variant.
Yes, we
Looks,
are getting
nice and pretty.
Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee little bundle. It's $3.99.99. $9.99.
$3.99 because it's coming with both games, or just one game.
Just one game.
One game in the Switch.
One game in a Switch.
That costs more than if you were to buy a Switch.
That's what it said. That's what it
Okay.
said.
I just want to make sure I understand
Now,
this.
granted,
math
it's really
correctly.
cool. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And they're probably going to make a lot of money
extra
doing this.
$50
But it
because
also
it's
comes
got
with
a paint
special.
job.
40.
It comes with specialized
The game's 60.
Joy-Cons.
Yeah. All Switch games are 60.
Yeah.
How much is Pokemon normally on DS?
40.
It's the same game.
No,
It's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
No.
Yes, it is.
It's not.
It's the same game with the ball support.
We talked about this. We talked about this.
Oh, that's right. And it comes with the ball. The
okay,
Pokeball.
so
Yeah,
now-
yeah.
Is the
now
ball
it
thing?
makes
Okay.
sense.
Is
Now
the
it
ball-
makes
oh,
sense.
yeah.
He
The
said
cost
ball.
all
Justify the
correct.
price gap there.
With the ball is $40.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. The ball is really ridiculous. That's why I won't buy it.
Is it a mash? Is it at least like a masher ball?
No, it's a regular Pokeball.
It'd be awesome.
The
if it was
package is a
master
regular
ball.
Pokeball.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you know what. I'd be
Ah.
surprised if they don't come out with variants for that. If
It
it
would be
actually
cool.
catches, that'd be awesome.
This would be your opportunity. This is how you sell a bundle.
Yeah.
Put a masher ball in that sucker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, buddy.
What's wrong with you?
You want to describe what the Switch looks like?
Yeah, the
Dollar
front plate
bills.
of the dock, it looks
Come on,
like
make us watch
yeah, on one side it has Eevee, and the other side it has Pikachu. And so when you load it into the dock, it's color coded, so that way the brown Joy-Con is with the Eevee and the yellow Joy-Cons with Pikachu. It looks really hot.
That
You
is
should
really
check it
cool.
out in the link if you haven't seen it yet.
Maybe
Definitely,
Pikachu.
if you don't have a Switch, I think it's worth the buy, personally.
A friend of mine in my little D&D group I do every other Wednesday messaged their group and was like, "This is what it is, bitches. This is why you wait," because he is totally buying this game. And
Yeah,
he
I have to say,
specifically-
I'm a little jealous.
Yeah, he called it a month ago. He's like, "I'm just gonna wait till they release a bundle, and then I'm gonna buy so I can get Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee together." And I was like, "Okay, well, let's see what happens." He's like, "Boom, done."
They're gonna make a
Wait, they
buttload
give
of
you
money
both
on
games
this.
with it?
No, you get one game. He's
Not only
gonna have
that,
to
it's
buy the other game.
it's right before
Wait a minute.
Black
What game do
Friday.
you get?
I'm assuming you can buy one.
That's a
bundle.
really good question.
I'm assuming
You can
pick
get,
which
but
bundle.
you can pick the bundle. I
Oh, you
believe.
get to pick.
Yeah.
But it's if you order
I'm
online.
gonna stock that.
No,
Exactly,
they'll
exactly.
load the game for you.
So I bet.
They load the game for you that you choose.
Wait a minute. So if I buy it on Amazon, I have to pick the Pokemon
I bet you there's a
Go
distribution.
Eevee or
Switch.
Pikachu.
Eevee or Pikachu. So there'll be two variants in that.
Yes.
That's
Eevee
what he
edition
believed.
versus Pikachu edition.
I think what he said is going to be right.
Well, no, I mean it says on the description they will load the game. It'll come preloaded.
No,
No, right. I was just saying. I think what he said is right. If you get it from Best Buy and GameStop, you
Correct.
get Eevee. If you get it from Amazon and Walmart, you get Pikachu.
That's what I think will happen too. They have not announced anything like that though.
I mean that seems like you're kind of really putting yourself into a corner, honestly.
Yeah.
Especially with these bundles.
Wait, which one are you guys fighting over? Eevee?
Yeah,
Fighting. It's already been resolved.
I'm getting Eevee.
That's fine. I'm getting Eevee too.
Yeah, we're both being really stubborn about
Sean's
this right now.
getting Pikachu.
The thing
so
is,
it's fine.
well, the problem is like you can get a Pikachu pretty easily in the game.
I don't think
heard.
it's going to be available.
No.
So in yellow, you could only capture one Pikachu, and if this is a spin-off of,
Yeah, that's
then they're
true.
not going to allow you to capture Pikachu.
Well,
Wait,
or-
but if
who
you-
else? All right, so
if you choose
we'll make
Pikachu-
Sean get
Yeah,
Pikachu.
he's already said he is.
But if you choose Pikachu, is Eevee not easier to catch, or is there only one Eevee?
I don't know yet.
Because,
we
like, I-
don't know the details.
Yeah.
I agree with your Eevee logic, but I feel like if you choose
Eevee-
the Pikachu version, I feel like you should be able to get Eevees.
History lesson, kids. In the original games, Red, Blue, and Yellow, you can only get one Eevee.
Yeah.
And you could only get it from Bill, and you'd get it in Celadon City.
You certain about Bill?
Sounds right.
Yeah, it sounds right. Yeah,
Billy Bob Thornton?
it's
But
either, it's
level
either that or
25, and then you use stones on it.
or is Bill the
Bill's
where
the
you
dude who
get the
does
fossil,
No, Bill's the dude who does.
I think he's the Buffalo guy.
the Buffalo Bill?
He's a Buffalo Soldier. With the heart of America.
Weird fast.
Wow. This
Why,
is what,
yeah, yeah.
this one.
I mean, honestly, in my opinion, I think it's worth it if you don't have a Switch yet. It's
No,
gonna
I
sell
agree 100%.
gangbusters.
What
it's
if
gonna
you
blow
already had
out.
a Switch and you played Zelda, and that's the only thing that spoke to you on Switch, and you think this Pikachu game is retarded?
Then obviously you're not gonna buy it,
Okay.
and that seems like a pretty easy dilemma to
Yeah.
take up.
So the
It's
next
like
bit
you're
of
making this really personal by bringing it up here.
the next little bit of news we have, because I feel like we talk about this every week now, is another website.
Nathan
is,
Fillion.
Not him, unfortunately. We'll get to that later. Another company has decided to change the way in which they do reviews.
Yeah,
This
Polygon.
time it is Polygon.
Yeah, I'm pretty interested to see how they come out with this. There's been a couple of reviews. I think they've already retrofitted the article with. They're doing badges, and they're getting away from the scoring system and saying that we recommend this game or not recommend this game based on whatever the article's talking about. Short and sweet, because they realize that people are starting to like smaller blasts of things.
Because
They're
we're
not-
ADD and we could read 3 sentences.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's a phone snapshot. You got enough time from when you got done wiping to going out and talking to your friends. So I'm going to look at this article real quick and then start
I
being
want to
social.
know how your bathroom process works.
Well, the washing of the
You
hands
don't-
got skipped.
You don't read while you're on the poop, but as soon as you wipe, You then sit there additionally.
No. He wipes, and instead of washing his hands, reads it and goes out to
Because
his
I'm in
bed.
such a hurry.
Smears some brown on the screen with the scrolling.
Yeah.
It's not surprising. A lot of companies, a lot of journalists, from what I've heard, don't like scores.
Yeah.
Most of them find them arbitrary. It becomes a fighting point with viewership or people reading rather than like an actual thing to bring information.
Views, dog.
Let's check out into how much I love Enslaved
Yeah.
and how much you like Enslaved.
What
And
is
if we
Enslaved?
average that, it would be a fairly decent representation. But if you were to take my score, you would have
I
thought
don't
it was
know
one
what
of
it
the
is.
best games of all time during that
I
time.
don't know what
But
it
that's
is.
Because
also,
I loved that game.
that's
Like,
also how reviews work, though. It's like it is your opinion.
which is true, and you actually write your opinion, which is fair.
Yeah.
What
But
I-
at the same time, the score can be misleading for certain people
What I'm hoping
because
is
they think there is a rubric, but it's not nearly as.
I agree.
I hope that they still do their numerical values for Metacritic, because I highly appreciate scores. I like numerical values, but I don't necessarily not. I obviously don't hold them to like
Yeah.
the utmost importance.
Yeah.
But like, if I go to Metacritic and it's like, oh, cool, the average score from all the major review sites is 89, and it's like, cool, Polygon gave it a 78. Now I'd be like, oh, why did that writer obviously not like the game that much? Because the guy from IGN gave it a 92.
Yeah.
With a particular set of news that you read, you kind of get the gist of, oh, this is the 70 range. I know what they're talking about, and I
Yeah.
know what I've experienced from that 80 or 90, so on.
I really like the way Kotaku does it, in which they have their article and then a box, and in the box it is just a quick summation of like, what's the game like, how long did I play it, here's my quick thought on it, and that way if you really don't want to read a full review, you can get the nitty gritty real quick.
The
and
Spark
then-
Notes.
Yeah. And
I'll be honest, I was reading the article, though, going through it, and I was like, oh, yeah, this sounds great that they're getting rid of the scoring system, that kind of thing. And they didn't mention it to, like, the 5th paragraph that they were going to use the Polygon, like, recommends thing.
The badge, yeah.
And I'm reading, I'm like, you're explicitly saying people don't even want to read 300 words to understand.
And
what
here
it
you
is.
are
Like,
giving
and
me a
I
giant
was like,
freaking
You're gonna have
paragraph.
to simplify this somehow. Like, there's no way that they're just going to get away from the score system and start reading articles. And they're like, Polygon recommends. I was like, a yes or no switch. Wow. It doesn't get any simpler than that. Wow, Polygon recommends it. Yeah, cool. All right, I'm going to get it.
yeah.
Like,
I think it's fine.
Yeah,
no.
I'm actually kind of agree with Dylan a little bit more. I like seeing the numbers because I like averaging things out.
Yeah.
So when I see, Polygon's got a 60, but then IGN's got a 90, I'm like, hoo-hoo, what happened here?
My thing is, if you want to play it safe, I would much rather you play it safe with like a grade school grading system, like A, B, C, D, E, F. F, it really sucks. Like, to be an F, it's got to be like trash.
simple, but not too simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then A could be your 90 to 100 range. So like the difference in like a Last of Us A and I don't know, another good but not great, like a SpiderMan A. Like both of those games could easily be A's.
Yeah.
I think all of us would agree The Last of Us is far superior to Spider-Man, but like, hey, they're both A's. They're both that
Well,
same.
they would each
top
probably could possibly get a 95 as well.
Yeah.
Within their realm. So, yeah, one would technically still be better than the other. So it's not really changing in that perspective. But, I mean, when you're looking at, like, the slight detail of one got a 99 or a 98, you'd be like, what was that one thing that you had to bother checking
'cause
off the list?
That's what I hated about IGN so much, where they're just like, oh, well, if we rescored this, it wouldn't be a 10 anymore. And because people were like, oh, why is this a 10 when that was a 10? Or why is this not a 10 when that game got a 10? It's like,
Yeah.
that was 5 years ago. Calm down.
It's the grading rubric for everyone is different too, so it kind of sucks.
I don't particularly like numeric scores because it's so arbitrary depending on who's reviewing it. Like IGN gave it an 8.7 to Spider-Man. This probably one of the lower scores I've seen for the
Surprised
entire thing.
to see that number actually.
But listening to the person talk about it, they're like, I thought it was a great game. 8.7 is a great game.
Yeah.
There are certain things that open world games do, and this one is very much an open world game. I did not like that aspect.
I do really think that this is a total random tangent that I've always had this issue with, but I think that we get so much of a connotation of scoring based upon like how we're graded like in school.
In school. Yeah.
Because like if something gets a 50, that means it's dead average.
Yeah.
Like that's average.
I agree.
That's not bad. That's not good. That is dead middle.
No, that's
So
actually horrible.
Anything above 50 is better than average.
That could also
That's-
depend on whether or not you were raised on the 7-point or the 10-point grading system. With that.
Yeah.
Fair point.
So, I mean, that's another reason why I don't particularly like scores
Yeah,
because
to
of
me,
the
like
fact
an
that
80
it's-
is like,
Yep.
that's really high above average. That's
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
But some people look at an 8.7 like, well, that's not a 9.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I looked at when my first intuition was like, what happened for it to not be at least a 9?
Yeah.
I was expecting 9.3.
Whereas I can tell you right now, for me, it's up there. It's a. We'll
I
get
dare you.
there.
I dare you to say it. Say it.
We'll get there.
I was waiting on him to say it'd be better on Switch.
So it was taking the game and trying to put it into the Switch. Kind of like, how do you make this work?
The next little bit of news that we had is kind of a follow-up because I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago we talked about the California net neutrality. Last week, 2 weeks ago?
I think it was 2 weeks ago. It wasn't last week.
Something like that.
Were you here for that?
I don't know.
Time flies, man.
It was last week.
We talked about net neutrality a lot on
It's
the show.
been 1 week.
Since you looked at me.
Mark.
Yes.
I'm just gonna take over. So ISPs are starting to. Some ISPs apparently are starting to come back, saying no, net neutrality is a very bad thing. It's going to stop growth in businesses and that kind of thing publicly. And better yet, they're writing letters to the FCC, like openly talking to the FCC about this kind of stuff.
So they're
This
like,
is bad.
Right. Give them the Brent Metcalf medal.
Oh yeah, no, it's really not good. So I want to see if I can find the quote while I'm talking here. But the general premise is we don't have the money to, I guess, increase the infrastructure, so rural areas aren't going to get internet infrastructure the way that it goes, or on normal, I guess, expansion. So I guess the major issue that they're saying is
How much
we
do you
should get
see
charged for every bit of traffic that goes through both directions. So here's the other thing. So Google is no. So that wasn't an explicit quote, but like that was kind of what was taken out of this.
The connotation, yeah.
Google already pays some of these providers, like their own ISPs that they have these interconnects with on a global scale, for their internet access because they are another internet service out there. So does Facebook and every other large company that's out there. Regardless of whether or not they have their own backbone, they still have to interface with the public backbones and pay for it.
Yeah.
But basically, the way that this other company was talking about it is, it seems like, well, your traffic kind of needs to get paid for at both ends. So if we tell Google they have to pay for it, not only are they paying their own ISPs, but they have to pay us too, and the consumer still has to pay us.
Ooh, that's double dipping, sir. People don't like that.
Yeah. No.
I personally do.
I think that it'll.
I don't.
I think if they do that, it would honestly be better than if they didn't, for the sole purpose of, the way in which net neutrality really sucks in the U.S. is because we didn't regulate. We threatened regulation, therefore we made large companies basically take over. If we wouldn't have had regulation, then they wouldn't have monopolized in the method in which they can do now. They can't be as cannibalistic. If they have if there's crappy small networks in local rural towns, they're still there without this whole superpower that we've created. But being as we've created these superpowers, the little guys no longer exist, so therefore the little guys can't take over. However, if in the scenario they try to double dip on people like Google and Facebook, then I have a feeling Google or Facebook will be like, no. We're going to make a new one. We're going to shut you down.
Yeah.
And then we're just going to let this company ride off in the sunset because we don't care.
Google's already got their own. They just got to go, all right, well, let's go here and 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 here. Like,
I mean, there's a lot of billions of dollars attached to those
because
years.
They won't run fiber to, like, my hometown. But they could easily take over major cities.
Yeah.
It's just mind-boggling. We don't make enough money. You can go yourself. You don't make enough money. Are you kidding me?
You should walk into their
They're
facilities.
saying that this is going to
gross.
stifle expansion and that kind of thing. Now, I do want to clarify that this is one ISP out of California that's complaining about this because they're trying to stop it since the signature hasn't actually been done by the governor yet.
Yeah.
So they're trying to, I guess, come back with something to say, oh, well, we really need this to stop. Otherwise, the cost is going to come back on the consumer.
Yeah.
Without explaining how the cost is going to come back on the consumer, other than saying the consumer's got to pay for other consumers to be able to get access to it so we can make more money. Like,
I agree. Yeah, I agree with Dylan in the sense that it will make it painful for the consumer temporarily, but these other companies will 100% come in and fill.
I think that will definitely be a ripping the Band-Aid off approach as towards a slow bleeding out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard often about
Fair point.
Other countries creating internet as a public utility and how much that would be such a double-sided coin here in the United States. Because on the one hand, would be wonderful.
Well, so
on the other hand, the government's making it.
Back up at my parents' hometown, up in where my extended family currently lives, up near outside Philly. They kind of work like that already.
Okay.
The way that I understand it is that the county or the municipality owns the copper and the fiber and everything else that runs the interconnects anyway and owns the interconnects that exist on both ends of everything. And the idea is that the ISPs just tap into those and collectively pay to upgrade them if they need to be upgraded to offer service. And the idea that what the result is, they have 6 ISPs that they can choose between.
Wow.
The Salisbury did something very similar to that. That's pretty close. It's a city pretty close to us. And the way Salisbury did it was basically the city funded everything. And they have a company that I think is called like Phoenix or something like that they partnered with. And they basically like auctioned off the rights to whoever wanted to run it. But the city paid for all the infrastructure or whatever. And anyone in the city, you get like the internet's super cheap. But I want to say it's like $70 and anyone in the city can get a gig by gig.
Wow.
And it's basically full city backed. So like no matter what, Phoenix can't increase the rates, whatever, like they're basically like, hey, you can do this, but we're setting the rates, and we're going to put everything in the ground. So we own it, but you can do whatever it takes to manage it.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
It's kind of like it's almost like a toll.
Yeah, and they're considered to be the fastest tech city in the country because of it, and it's like a small town called Salisbury.
Salisbury?
Yeah.
Salisbury.
Podunk nothing. Oh my
God. Home of Cheerwine Food Line. Yes, that one.
Wow.
But the next little bit of news that we had is on the Apple frontier, the never-ending Apple frontier. They seemingly allowed an app to get by on the Mac store, not necessarily the iOS store, but it's some skimming some datters.
Actually, to clarify, this hasn't been one that got by them. Well, I guess it did, but Trend Micro. Have you guys heard of Trend Micro? Trend Micro is sort of a smaller,
one for me, please, sir.
A smaller company that does virus scan solutions and tools to remove malicious apps and things
Knock
like
off
that.
Kaspersky.
Like themselves.
Sort of. It's kind of. But apparently they got caught collecting browser information with some of these tools that are completely not related to your browser. Like downloading your browsing history and then transmitting it to their servers to be stored.
So they got a lot of porn.
Probably. From you, maybe, yeah. But it's unknown whether or not like Trend Micro is actually the company that pulled it down off the App Store, or whether Apple is the one who shoveled them out and said, "No, you need to get rid of this," that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But there were a couple reports of like somebody who caught it, and then a bunch of other people like, yeah. Well, this is weird. Why is my browsing history getting sent off suddenly to remote servers? Like, if you're using Trend microservices, you might want to try to get rid of them, especially if you're on a Mac. Actually, if you're on any platform, I'd probably recommend it at this point, especially if one of them's been caught.
Yeah.
So
it was seemingly only on the Mac OS, not on any other platform.
Yeah, well,
it's only from the Mac App Store.
The Mac App Store was the one that they. Yeah, the Mac App Store was the one that they caught it on. Actually, I don't know if they said anything about testing the other ones or not.
They said that. Well, from what I read briefly about it, was the Quick OS was the only Mac OS was the issue.
Okay.
I was very confused.
So anyway, Trend Micro on Mac, I'd get rid of it.
Yep.
Any of their tools too.
Good idea.
You know what else you can get rid of?
What does Trend Micro do?
They're basically a knockoff Kaspersky.
Okay. Yeah. I just want to make sure that's what I was thinking.
Cheap virus scanning.
Yeah.
But what you can do is on October 11th, the internet's crashing. It's going away forever.
No.
Basically.
Download it in teraflops. Hurry.
It cracks me up because there's tons of sensationalist headlines about this, saying that millions of people are going to lose access to the internet and that kind of thing.
On October 11th.
Not quite.
I think it's October 11th. I could be wrong.
So, for those of you who have any idea how security certificates work, security certificates actually have to upgrade the encryption every so often because computational power gets better and better over time. So you can crack keys more and more often. Your leg hair is really weird against my knee.
I was trying to look at Brent beside of your face, and he wouldn't fucking acknowledge me.
Basically, ICANN, the international regulatory body that's responsible for IP addresses and domain names, is upgrading or finally shutting off the old security key that was generated back in 2010 for the new one that they just generated for 2017 and upgraded the encryption on. Most of the providers that you get your domain names to IP addresses, your DNS service from, like Google or Cloudflare is one. There's a couple of them out there. But most of them have already upgraded. However, some of them have not yet. And VeriSign, the company that's responsible for the actual .com root domain, has said that there's about 7% of 7% of DNS sites out there that are still using the old certificate. And the problem is, whenever this shuts off on October 11th, anybody who is still tied to some of those old DNS servers is going to get completely lose any ability to resolve domain names. So you're going to lose essentially access to the internet at that point. For the vast majority of us who use Google or use Cloudflare or use any other popular name DNS host, you're not going to have any problems with it. But For those minute, for that minute fraction of people who actually use it, okay, you're going to lose access. You might want to upgrade or communicate with whoever needs to upgrade your DNS service to be able to handle the new encryption key.
A lot of shady websites are going to go offline.
Yeah,
So the good ones.
Yeah.
Those are the best.
Brent's in his shuffling is always concerning to me. So in random continued news, this week, what is today? Today is the 9th, 10th?
Today's the 10th.
Yeah, so actually the day that you're watching this, it's probably already aired. The Mac iPhone event presser is this week. They're going to be unveiling the new Cry phones. Most likely a new watch, it is believed. They're also going to reshuffle everything on the table 7 times is what they're going to do. Taking a cue from the wonderful Brent Metcalf. But it's going to be a new event, and just kind of curious, what do you think is going to come out? Do you think we're going to get any surprises? Anything you're unaware of? I mean, obviously, I don't know what you're aware of, but
AirPods.
maybe they're finally going to actually release the wireless case.
Yeah.
A year after they said they were, but hey.
I mean, isn't there a rumor that they're going to take the X and make it a cheaper variation of it?
They're going to basically replicate the X instead of OLED LCD, and it's going to be $650.
Yeah.
And then they're going to have whatever the next number is, maybe the X1 or the 11 or
XS.
XS is the prediction.
Live in excess.
Yeah, but if it's XS, then what's the next one? Is it 11 or what? Or back to 9 or
The Xi.
whatever it is. But yeah, so we're probably going to get 3 phones, most likely.
Yeah.
My watch, hopefully new AirPods.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see how they upgrade the watch, because they just released one not too long ago, right?
The Gen 3. The Gen 1 outsells everything by like a landslide. The biggest difference is the Gen 1 is way cheaper.
Yeah.
But the other 2 are waterproof.
Okay.
The Gen 1 also only had Wi-Fi, didn't have cellular.
Yeah.
Gen 2 came out with cellular and Wi-Fi. Gen 3 was the same plus waterproof. They all got a little better tech specs, but
what's the price range
for the new?
from like new down to first gen?
I think first gen now is I want to say like $200, and new is $429.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty distinct price range.
Yeah. You're getting what you pay for though with a waterproof, man.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But
I think the only thing that's going to surprise me at this Apple event is
It's got a phone
probably
locator
gonna be
too, so you can
pricing
sit there and be like, beep, beep,
I
beep.
I would
talking about
imagine
that.
the XS Max is going to shock the living crap out of me about how expensive it's
I
going
don't
to
think
be. I would push $1,200.
I mean, that's less than the new Note 9 fully loaded. Note
It's
9
gonna be
fully
a
loaded,
It's gonna be
$1,250.
a holographic phone.
Note 9 baseline starts at $1050.
You're gonna have a phone that you wear on your wrist, and it's gonna project
what I
onto your
want.
skin.
I'd be dope.
I'd be hauled in for that one. man.
Insta pre-order. I think that the regular size X the last one started at $999. I think it'll probably stay the same. I think the SXXL will probably start at. They only usually go up $100 for XLs, so it'd be $1099.
The max.
The max specs will be $13.99 because mine was $11.99.
You say XL is in like the
Larger
Plus.
version.
Yeah.
The predicted name is XS Max or whatever.
XS. What?
XS
That doesn't sound very Apple.
Is that we've all gotten used to like scrolling through phone like this, and then there's gonna be right here we're start cramping because we can't hold our arm up that long.
What do you mean with the twisting?
You have to twist it in order to see the screen. I mean, I'm talking about like, hey, I'm bored. I'm just gonna sit here and scroll through Twitter.
Everybody's
supposedly-
arms are going to deteriorate.
Supposedly, it seemingly is very, very probable that next fall, the Samsung with the Note will release the Project X phone, which is their fully bendable, fold in half. passport looking.
Predicted release date.
Well, think about it. If it was completely around your wrist and you were doing this, it would pop up like this, and you sit there and do this. Or if you were sitting at the table, you could sit there and do that. No big deal.
NBD. Because Apple will never die, we might as well go on to something else that will never die, which seemingly is Fortnite.
Yeah.
They are now making some just crazy partnerships. It's unreal. Monopoly, I could at least partially get Monopoly. But Nerf, come on now.
Nerf makes total sense. What are you
Actually,
talking about?
Nerf to me makes
Nerf
more sense than
way
Monopoly.
more sense than
Yeah.
Monopoly.
Yeah.
What are you talking
Nerf
about?
should not belittle themselves.
Whoa.
I don't know.
Shots fired.
I don't think that's how that works.
Belittle
I don't
themselves.
really know what Nerf sales are, but from what I can tell in my life,
I
it's
want to
usually
be.
adult males that are buying it. So in order to get the kids
Exactly.
back into buying Nerf, I'd totally
How many-
partner.
About to say,
friends you
can you
on there,
imagine going through there? You got this
Relevant
giant
numbers.
Nerf gun. Like, that'd be great.
Give me a phone pickaxe. I'm ready to
Yeah.
rock.
I mean, that's the only one that'd be acceptable. I don't even want the pickaxe. I want the lime on a stick.
There you go. See?
Okay.
There we go.
I beat somebody with a lime
Nerf's
on a
got
stick.
this. That's smart.
Dude, that was great. That was perfect.
Yeah.
I think it's a great
Good on
partnership.
them.
Yeah.
I hate
No,
you
it's a
all.
good business move. I'll put it that way.
I hate you all.
Now all we need now is Lego to get with them with a building.
Yeah. Lego
I think me and
Lego
Mark's.
You can
Fortnite.
stage BR and it's all turn-based. So you just take your
I
turn.
think me and Mark's roommate Capley would probably just die. I think that'd be the end of his life.
There you go. See? Here for you guys.
Well, we'll all get text messages if he watches this. The next thing I wanted to announce is that life was changed today. Call of Duty released their BR. Speaking of BRs,
How is it?
it's really good. I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I liked watching
Let's
him play
rephrase
it.
it. Some lives were changed. I'm
Yeah,
still
okay.
stuck on the Battlefield 1 beta.
Pretty much.
so it's-
Everyone who is a adolescent male who drinks Mountain Dew and has eaten Doritos in the last 6 months, all of their lives got changed.
I've done none of those things. Look at that.
So look at that.
Some of them are probably no longer Nike fans, but that's for another reason
Oh
entirely.
my god.
You're on the Battlefield 5 beta.
Yeah.
So while we're on this topic here, this little news topic, how you liking it?
Which one, Battlefield 5 or
You're
Call of
not
Duty?
playing Battlefield
I
5
am
beta,
playing-
you're
yeah, I am.
the other one.
Playing
You
both.
was
both.
playing Battlefield 5.
Yeah,
And
but
then
what
this
are
one
you
came
playing now?
Call of Duty.
There you go. How is it?
It's really good. It's
Yeah.
really good.
Anything like you want to report on it?
It is a little slower than I would prefer right now.
Mhm.
They're only doing 80 players. They've tested to 115. The public hasn't tested that yet. The David Vonderhaar, which is the lead director of Treyarch, he basically said this week what they're going to do is they're going to test maybe varying size lobbies. They're also going to test varying time. They're going to try to force the game to be faster, which I
Mhm.
assume is going to be faster zones,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to try to force the game to be slower. I'm hoping when they speed it up, I kind of hope that's what they stick with, because I think right now it plays at about 20 minutes a game.
Okay.
Hoping it gets down to that 15-minute mark is kind of think the sweet spot for me.
Yeah.
So is this one of those you die, you got to watch the whole game play out?
No, you
No.
can quit
Oh,
anytime.
okay, cool.
No.
I mean, if your
No.
team's still alive, I could watch Mark keep going.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, you can just instantly leave. It just there's a lot of low moments right now, and I hope if you sped the zone up, you'd force more engagements.
Okay.
It feels like in my opinion, like a slightly faster version of Fortnite.
Mhm.
But everything's pretty good. The controls are really intuitive. It's way better than PUBG or H1 on console.
Oh,
which
nice.
both of those on console kind of suck because it's not built for console. It's kind of unintuitive.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not as intuitive as Fortnite probably because Fortnite is a giant shiny gun on the ground. You can see it really easily.
Yeah.
Whereas this guy, mash square and stuff. It's pretty good though. It's pretty good.
How's the Battlefield 5 beta?
It's a beta.
Yeah.
So there's definitely some bugs to work out, that kind of thing.
I think I finished 2 games.
Oh,
Played about 30. My game crashes halfway through every game.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
No idea why.
It's still a beta.
Yeah.
Like we had to update NVIDIA drivers just to
Launch it.
be able to play it.
Wow.
Like you launch the game and you just get a Windows prompt that says, "Oh, you must upgrade in 390.77 or whatever it is." But not a great intro, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. I mean, it's fine. It's every other Battlefield, but to me, some of the mechanics are actually a little bit smoother. The one thing that used to always annoy me was the parkour mechanics. Anyway, I feel like to me those are a little bit smoother, and you can actually do a few extra things. Probably one of my favorite that I didn't even anticipate was being able to jump from a surface, miss the ledge, hit space or whatever, and he reaches out, grabs it,
That's cool.
and then starts to pull himself up.
Nice.
Honestly, that's one of my favorite items. But it's definitely a different spin on World War II with the attachments and things like that. Anyway, compared to like 1942 that I used to play,
Yeah.
or 1943 even. But I enjoy it.
I could see that screwing you on the BR.
Yeah. Well, the BR is not out yet, sadly.
Yeah,
What-
I know, but
Do you have to play as a woman?
Yes. You can't play as a dude right now.
Oh wow,
Oh,
that's
wow.
insane. So the
It is
cover art
super-
is telling the truth. Okay, just
Uh,
wanted to make
yeah,
sure the
you-
internet understood that they
I
had to
think-
play as a woman
No.
because there's a woman on the cover art.
I think you can play as a black dude.
So
You cannot
dumb.
play as a white male though right now. And like
I've-
Twitter obviously has been talking
Of
crap about him.
course,
It's like,
yeah.
oh, look at this. You can't even play as a
You're
white
right.
guy in World War
You gotta
II.
pay for it. Get over it. Get over it.
What I do think it's very odd. It did make me appreciate, as much as I hate to admit, it did make me appreciate playing Black Ops on the console so much, for the reasoning of the Battlefield 1. The game would either my game would just straight crash midway through most of the time, but then the times when it didn't do that, we would get this weird glitch of sometimes you can be revived, and if you can be if you can't be revived, but somebody tries to revive you, then you can't respawn into the game.
Like it'll show other medics around or your squad members that you can be revived, but you've already gone back to the spawn screen.
Yeah, and it basically locks you, so you have to quit the game to come
If
back
they
in.
revive you, you come back to life, and you can kind of see your body there. But the problem is then your respawn timer just sits at 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna put this out here. Put in the command to kill myself, please.
Yes,
The
there's
suicide
no
command
kill
that's
yourself.
been around for every
Ever.
Battlefield since 1942. please bring that back, especially for betas, because then I can kill myself.
It's been around for any game that you literally
So
go
then I
into
don't,
that down
like,
state.
feel like I actually want to kill myself.
But the only way to fix it
bad
is
joke,
to
but-
leave the game, and then when you, especially on National Suicide Day, which is today.
It's not even half as bad as the
Well,
rest of
thanks
it.
for telling that.
But you have to leave the game and rejoin. Then most likely the game's full. You have to wait on a queue timer, so you have to wait like a couple minutes for somebody to leave the game, and it's terrible. Now, the flip side of that is Call of Duty Blackout, which my PlayStation auto-updated to the newest firmware. It auto-downloaded the game without me ever launching my PlayStation. I log on today at noon, and it's like, hey, you want to play? And I was like, X. Oh, it's even loaded early? They let us play an hour early? I was like, well, this is convenient.
My goodness.
I did have
My
2 crashes.
ears deceive me?
I did have 2
The
crashes.
PlayStation 4 console made life easier? What?
You want to know what it didn't make life easier? When you tagged me on some weird thing the other day, and I tried to view it from my phone, and it did not have it. So I logged on to see what it was.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed.
Oh, really?
I thought it was going to be like some dumb, funny, weird angled selfie.
It wasn't that bad.
It was cool. I like the Metal Gear Solid-esque vibe, even though it's Spidey senses, I know. But I wish I'd heard the Metal Gear. When I saw it, I heard the Metal Gear Solid noise in my head.
Yeah.
Little, just, I can't make that noise. I got nothing.
Speaking of that tweet you sent with the Nora SpiderMan, I totally dig the movie on that.
Oh, yeah, I was trying to put that together.
Okay.
Either way, every single week, we cover a lot of stuff. We cover a lot of news, tech, media, all the stuff. We call it the important
This one was very disjointed. I apologize to the audience. But I think we're going to start with you, Mark, because we were talking about technology. We're talking about drivers and updates. And we're talking about putting together a smarter home.
Right.
The way you said technology, I thought you were going to say Tech 9. I was like, where are we going?
So, Dylan and I, being roommates, we are very big into tech together, and the entire house here pretty much has, I don't know, smart home devices in just about every room you can find.
Okay, Google.
I'm pretty sure my room or Kepler's room just went off. So.
Or right there.
Oh, that's right, in your room too. I forgot about that. We have like 6 Google Homes spread out across the house.
Probably.
3 individual Hue systems. Running, I don't know, a couple of different groups of lights, that kind of thing. We have a television downstairs wired with Google, with Chromecast, that kind of thing. So Dylan and I guess, are on the same page of like, we're very pro smart home, that kind of thing. I wanted to see, I guess, where you guys really stand with it, because I don't think I've seen an Alexa or a Google Home around your house. I don't know about your home or not, but like, where do you guys stand? Are you guys looking to advance into smart homes or no?
It seems like you're not paying attention because I have an Alexa.
He doesn't hardly use it.
No, I know. I don't.
So then he doesn't have an Alexa.
I have an Alexa, and I use it essentially as a smart speaker. Entirely, no other reason to have it in the house. I add stuff to the shopping list every now and then, and I play music.
Okay.
I don't particularly feel a need for it, which is mostly the reason why I don't. There's an extraneous cost to it. All the Google Homes, all your systems, all cost everything, and I don't necessarily see the benefit for myself. I don't mind turning my lights on. I don't mind having to like.
Do you have LED bulbs, or do you have?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, I do a lot just manually. I've always been appreciative of technology as it continues to grow and this kind of thing. It's just never been my thing.
Okay.
There's a couple of things that I wouldn't mind. Like we do have like a Fire Stick Pro, which we have TVs where we could throw our phone onto. Like we have
Literally
aspects-
catapults the phone onto the TV.
Correct.
Literally.
It's Velcro catches
And then it just plays right there.
a little bitty screen.
We have aspects of like what could become a smart home, but it's just never been anything that I care about other than a security system. Like that to me matters.
Yeah.
Part of it I also think is I've seen a poorly executed smartphone home.
Smartphone home.
A friend of ours whom you have visited quite often, he's a very tall individual. He can only turn the lights on his mobile app. The switches are actually like locked in place. He actually got plastic pieces to lock them in because he doesn't want anybody else turning them off so that he can turn them on from his app. So when he's, say, cooking chicken, and I'm like, hey, can I turn this light on here? He's like, yeah, 1 second.
Jeopardy music playing. Do, 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 do.
Meanwhile, you've already gone
Do.
over the control
And
unit.
do,
tried to
do.
turn it on. And he's like, oh, yeah, you could use it as this. I'm like, this is the dumbest thing in the world. This is not smart.
Well, see,
No.
to me that's where like a smart home device like a Google Home or an Alexa really takes the place there. Because my room in particular, I have a couple of keywords that I say like I'm home, I'm leaving, or time for bed.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll play the weather for me. It'll tell me the weather for the next day. Play the weather. It'll tell me the weather for the next day. It will automatically readjust my lights to whatever I like for sleeping with, that kind of thing. And it will set an alarm for me for the next day.
All I imagine when you say play the weather is that you're trying to make the noises of the weather, but it's not doing it really well. So it's like, I guess it's going to be windy tomorrow.
Literally, it's just a guy in a microphone going.
The only thing,
I think it's rain. It might be hail.
yeah, I guess like Mark said, we have a ton of smart home stuff. Mine is there's just a couple gaps that bother me tremendously. And as dumb as they are, I want more. When I was, this is a quick flashback into where this all came from. My mother worked as a manager at a pizza place when I was in high school. Yeah, and so occasionally they'd be like down people or whatever, so like I'd have to go help. And so I would go there, and then I'd have to like deliver pizzas or whatever the case would be, right? And my mom had like a Magellan or Garmin or insert one of those GPS companies. This is we got flip phones here. We're not using smartphones and crap. So I've got like a Magellan or a Garmin or one of those, right? And I had to do this pretty often, like maybe like once a week I had to go help out. And I was like, man, this GPS thing's, it's cool, but kind of sucks. And then I just like Googling one day, like, hey, what's a cooler GPS, whatever. And then I learned you can get voice packs for these GPSs. And then I learned they have an Eric Cartman voice pack. And I was like, this is the greatest. Just have Cartman like cussing and yelling at me.
I had George W. Bush.
But this just basically made me want more than anything smart homes to be able to have like integrated system. Like if I could get my weather from Ollie Williams every morning, I'd be way happier.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Have Cortana talk to you.
Yeah, all that stuff will be just like, those are super subtle. One, I'm impressed that, I guess Cortana is kind of a Windows thing, so they probably wouldn't license that out.
Yeah.
But like, come on. I know Amazon, you got Family Guy on your show, your little thing.
Yeah.
I know you got it.
Yeah, but Microsoft doesn't have. They don't have anything like
They don't have anything, no.
Yeah, so they would probably be like, yeah, I'd love to make some
Exactly.
money.
We would love to bring Cortana back up in a household.
There are lots of little things that I think I would like, but again, not a full home. Like I would 100% love if I don't have to connect to my Alexa, if it had like podcasts that I played stored because it's connected to the internet and sees when I'm deleting them and then is able to just play it from itself, or audiobooks, like those little things.
Once again, you need to have a shared ecosystem. If you use the Google Podcast app, it does that. But I don't use the Google Podcast app. I use Spotify.
Because it's garbage.
Yeah.
The Google Podcast app, you can do so much better.
Yeah.
I would have moved to it if it wasn't garbage.
Insert Obi-Wan, Anakin, you were the chosen one meme.
Yeah, 100%. God.
I mean, if it was a lot more intuitive for me, just the AIs in general, like, hey, I want to listen to this. And it would be like, I don't know what you're talking about, and you have to ask a specific command. Like it's just so annoying.
It's gotten better. I will give it that. Like the nice thing, if you go through like for mine with Google Home, the Home app actually has a lot of presets that I can make now for like specifically for individual devices. Actually, so like my Google Home in my bedroom is specifically linked to only the 4 lights that I have in my bedroom. Yeah. Versus the one that I have downstairs in the office is linked to the 2 or 4 that I guess we have in the office.
Yeah.
Then the one that's in the kitchen, even though it's not my Google Home, I'm linked to it. Controls specifically the television that's downstairs in the living room. Like if I tell it to turn off the TV, it knows, oh, well, this TV by default.
I have both the Alexa show, or the Amazon show, and the Google Home. I do enjoy more of the fluid motion that the Google Home gives me when I
do think it's more intelligent.
It's more conversationalist too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think for me, the one that I recommend to everyone that's like the best entry point for like smart home automation is the Hue lights, just because like I hate light in the morning, and it's like one of the most like annoying things in the world. Or like if you wake up in the middle of the night, like the I guess binary switch of your lights are off and you can kind of not see at all, or your lights are on and you're blinded because it's 2 a.m. and it's dark outside. Yep. That's why like I have it set so it's like between the hours of like 9 p.m. and 8 a.m. If I cut on the lights, it default cuts them on at 1%.
That's really cool.
So it's like, cool, I'm going to go pee now, and I'm not blind. Nate, thank you.
Set a default like that. That's actually cool.
Yeah.
I just use my night vision.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, you know what my night vision would do? I'd kick the corner or something, I'd break my toe, face plant into a window, and that'd be the end.
See, I just had an idea of you, like, rolling over in bed, reaching down, and there's just a pair of NVH.
Modern Warfare 2.
Breeze next to you, and all she hears is...
Corey freaks out.
She wakes up, then the Metal Gear sign goes off.
Yeah.
Over her.
I am
No,
boss.
that's totally Hein.
I am big boss. I don't know. I feel like if I could get better shortcuts on my phone, I would probably utilize it more. I wish that you could like modify. I mean, especially with Apple, it's a little harder. But modify like the pickup screen that has your camera, flashlight, stuff like that, so I can instantly connect to the lights and stuff would be way better.
Yeah.
You totally have a widget for that.
They do have a widget for that. That goes right into the pickup screen.
He's talking about iOS, but yeah.
I have widgets
Oh yeah,
for
but you
the lights.
don't have iOS.
You don't have iOS. He's talking about iOS.
I don't know if the iOS has widgets.
You can. I think mine's gonna be locked because it's
Oh, the screen thing.
Screen thing.
Dylan's trying to limit the amount of time he uses his phone, so he has apps limited to certain categories and can only open them if he's below the certain amount of screen usage for that.
That is correct. And then also between the time of 5 p.m. and 8 a.m., I basically cannot use most applications on my phone.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah, so like if you
Makes
see
my phone
Hue
work
right there,
Mm-hmm.
well,
It's
the
a good
door's
idea if
closed
you need
behind
that
us. But if
one
you
Yeah.
after
nighttime
hours.
or bright, it just those are the two hot switches I
Perfect.
have. But it's just
I would probably end up using that then.
Do what?
I just have self-control.
That's good. I don't.
I don't either.
He has none of
I
that.
have none of that. I've actually been doing pretty well on this calorie count in 1 week.
See, when it comes to food, I have zero control. When it comes to technology, I'm totally one of those people where it's like, I'm such a prima donna where if it's just a slight inconvenience, I won't do it. Like Facebook, like one of our roommates, he wanted to quit using Facebook as much, so he deleted the app. And then now he just gets on Safari and logs into Facebook, and he just uses Safari on Facebook.
Yeah.
Whereas like me, I deleted the app, and I was like, I'm not, it's just fine.
Yeah,
I don't care.
Yeah.
The only time I really signed to the browser, somebody's like, "Oh, I sent you this, by the way." Do I really want to?
Yeah. I just,
I deleted Facebook and forgot about it for years, and then I had to download it again to get Messenger, and I just forget to
Oh, see, on
delete
my
it.
phone. It's
oh no, you don't have to have. I have Messenger, but I don't have Facebook.
Yeah, I'm about to delete it actually now. I'm trying to remember to delete it before I turn it on again. And
Yeah.
then I'm sitting there for an hour scrolling through things. I'm like, I don't care. Why am I doing this?
God, Aunt Jenny, why are you posting photos of our family from 17 years ago?
Because she doesn't know what a smart home is. So, moving on to the next topic.
Moving on up.
To the side.
I don't think that's actually.
Dylan Sinat.
I don't
What
think.
is your topic?
So we were talking about reviews earlier, which is what has inspired me about this topic. And I was reading this article over the weekend, which I did not put in the notes because I'm a terrible human. But basically, this article was talking about if you had to choose, and this is from all spheres really, but it's most applicable to us, most likely for gaming.
Mm-hmm.
But if you had to choose, imagine it's like a skill, like a character builder skill sheet type thing,
Mhm.
right? You only get a certain amount of points to allocate. Would you rather choose a system to where you could have, say, like 3, like great to perfect level games a year, but basically everything else kind of sucks? Or would you rather choose to have like 1 perfect game a year, and then maybe like 5 to 8 good games, and then everything else sucks? Or would you rather choose to have no great games, but then like 10 to 20 really good games, and then everything else sucks? Like, what would you choose? Would you choose like 3 like Last of Us level amazing games? Or would you choose 1 with a couple like, like SpiderMans and like really good games baked in there, but not like that Last of Us level, Or would you just choose hey, I really only want those good games. I want 10 to 20, maybe Divisions or Destinies or like good games.
I'd probably go middle of the road.
Yeah.
Go 1-5.
Have basically have like the 1 really good game and then the 5 decent games or 5 good games. The idea is that those 5 really good games are there for your variety. You get your variety throughout the year of, here's an RPG versus here's a shooter, here's a race game even, whatever it is. But then that 1 really good game is that the one, I guess, like spectacular game is the one that you really devote like hours on hours on hours into.
I was about to say, it's all based on the subject. If it's a genre of like RPG and that lasts forever, or VR, and you have 1 really good game, this is going to give you play their whole year.
So to me, that's what sucks about it, because if it's all like random, right? So if it's just like their game scope, like the exact same games come out this year, right? The exact same games, exact same titles. But say if you do it the one where like say 3 games are like the greatest ever, you maybe get lucky and it's Spider-Man and it's God of War and it's Pokemon, right? And those 3 are like perfect. Everything else is meh. But like, what if it's just 1 is perfect? And that 1 is perfect is, no offense, Brent, like Guacamelee 2, which like that applies to a really niche audience. So like, for example, like Mark doesn't really care about like platformers. Mark's out of it. I don't really care about luchadors, I guess. So I'm out of it. So it's like now it's like if you only get one perfect game, like what happens if that perfect game is like a racing game? Yeah, the racing community is gonna be thrilled. Everyone else is gonna be like, God, next year's our year.
Well, I mean, I don't think we get a perfect game every year now. So you're
right, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
describing a similar situation.
Well, I feel like about every year we do get one, sometimes more than others. But I feel like last year we got the Divinity Original Sin 2. Yeah, right? That's it? Divinity Original Sin 2.
It launched last year.
And that was like the game that like everyone was like, oh, this is the greatest RPG. Like, this is like super amazing. And like the whole time, like, God, that's amazing. I don't care at all about that game.
Yeah, 100%.
Jesus.
No, I'm with
Whereas like the year of the Last of Us, I was like, whoo, yeah, it's my game. Woo.
It's my
That's
year.
my thought process there. There was the perfect game for that year, though, is basically the one game that the masses will play. And as much as I hate to say it, it would probably be Call of Duty.
Right, what I was
It
saying
would
though is
probably
like,
be Call of Duty.
I guess for me, my greed would take over, and I'd much rather probably take the 3 to 5-ish perfect games and then no real good games. Everything else kind of sucks, just because like the odds of me getting the perfect game that I want much higher versus that one a year.
You keep changing the numbers. Is it 3 or is it 3 to 5?
If it was 3,
1
What
to
is
5,
3?
and then 3-0.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, too, is it also depends on how many games you play. Like, we obviously are on the higher end of the spectrum. We tend to play, like, anywhere between, 20 to probably 40 games, at least delving a little bit into a year.
This year will be my highest platinum rate for
How many
gaming.
platinums will you hit this year?
I believe I'm at 12, and I'm going to platinum. I'm 75% of the way through SpiderMan, 91% of the way through Guacamelee 2.
So if you had to categorize real quick, out of your 12, how many of those games would you consider great or better?
I would say most of them.
Most of them, yeah, because this year was a very big passion year for me where I platinumed Infamous 2, I platinumed God of War, Guacamelee 2 is going to be on there.
You would give Infamous 2 great.
Oh,
I enjoyed Infamous 2.
I love Infamous 2.
Especially for the time that it was released. It was a very good game.
Yeah.
See, I enjoyed all of the Infamouses, and I think, to me, Second Son is the closest one to great, but, like, the city's just real hollow.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's cool, don't get me wrong. I think, like, the fluidity and, like, they did a great rendition of
Traversal
Seattle.
combat of the game are
The mechanics
amazing.
are on
so
point.
good.
But, like, it just felt kind of hollow.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, this is 80% to an amazing game.
Yep.
But that last 20% is just a little short.
Yeah,
I agree.
I felt the same way actually about Infamous 2 a little bit. There was a bunch of cool little things, but
that's to me,
for
of
the most
those
part.
games are like that's the good games. Like there's nothing wrong with that. And those like to me, I know you probably Spider-Man may be like that great or higher for you, but to me, looking at Spider-Man, it's like I have no doubt that's a good game to me. But that's it.
Looking at Infamous 2, comparing it to Spider-Man today, there's very little difference that I see in how you interact with the city, and I don't see there being a big jump in any of the open world games where like on there. Granted, I haven't played Grand Theft Auto 5, but I mean, of the Grand Theft Autos, it was similar where like there are certain people you talk to, but other than that, it's not really a living, breathing world.
And
it
I think
doesn't feel that way.
I think that's the biggest hype of Cyberpunk. I think Cyberpunk seems to be the first one to break that,
barrier.
I guess, generic drone mode. Yeah.
And so I think it's all. I mean, this is subjective, and it is all about your expectations. I don't go into Infamous expecting a living, breathing world. I go in there for a playground. I go in there to have fun, destroy shit, fight bad guys, really flex my muscle. And Spider-Man does a better job than that by giving me a sense of urgency because I'm a hero. I'm a developed hero. I'm someone who knows they're
You're
a
not
hero.
Cole McGrath
Correct.
destroying
like
stuff.
I am not only a hero, but I am forced to be a hero. Like that's that character. But I mean, I don't. If anything, I think a world like Horizon's much more believable in how characters interact and how the world works to me than something like any of these hero games. But that's because they're so close to reality. They're never going to reach that pinnacle, at least not in these next few generations, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like even Cyberpunk, if it gets there, I think it's going to get there off of the fact that it has this setting that is so far in the future. They can hand wave a bunch of things that we would have expectations for. Simple things, but things that are easy to kind of offset.
Yep.
I like to play the field. I'd kind of almost want to go with everything being fairly good, and being okay with that realm.
You would take like the 20 good, no perfects.
Yeah. It would be rough. I think, having already lived a life where I found a lot of games that I find to be very, 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 very good or close to perfect. But I feel like if we're going to put it in the real setting where it affects everybody all at once, yeah, I'd rather have just good games all around being available.
I think, to me, the reason I'd probably, I guess, go for the greed of the max of the perfects is just because, like, granted, I didn't enjoy Overwatch, but a lot of people think Overwatch is a borderline perfect game. And, like, I mean, doesn't one of your friends still plays, all the time?
Yeah. All the time.
So it's like,
Still play off and on.
So, like, if I were to find, like, if Overwatch is your game, like, that's your game for, like, 5 years, you're good.
Yeah.
Like, that could be it. Like, League of Legends, like, came out in, like, 2009. Yeah. It's still one of the biggest games in the world. It's, like, 9 years later.
Yep.
So that's why I would rather have, like, cool, if you get, like, 3-ish perfects a year and nothing else is really that good, like, the odds of you getting something you won't hate every year are pretty good. Like, maybe it's like a Monster Hunter where it's like, I'll play it. It's not my favorite game, but I'll still play it and I'll still have fun with it. But then, like, maybe next year it's, like, the greatest Call of Duty ever, and it's, like, the best of the best. And it's like, cool, well, I'm good for 5 years, guys.
So this question, I'm trying to not break it down too much, because if you stare at it too long, it falls apart.
Yeah. 100%.
Because, like, in your setting, they're all good games, but your subjectivity is going to change because you're getting used to the good games.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay.
And I just thought it was very interesting, because I was reading, and the guy was basically saying, like, basically now we seemingly are in a time where, like, every year we usually have one game per, and it's not necessarily per genre, but like one game that usually stands above everything else. And then now it's like we got a whole bunch of really good games, but like the window between good and perfect is so minuscule at times. Like they used the year with Horizon and Zelda and all those, and they basically said like, hey, there was nothing perfect, but the most perfect thing you could have is Divinity Original Sin 2. But then you had a lot of good stuff, like Horizon, really, really good. Zelda, really, really good.
Horizon was damn near perfect.
Yeah, it really was.
I totally agree.
The fact that it won no awards that year blows my brains.
I thought it won like best music or something random.
We don't need to talk about that right now. It still hurts.
But yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Like, and I think it's all subjectivity, because like to me, like I wouldn't categorize Horizon as good. I would definitely categorize it well above good. Yeah. But Zelda, I could totally see as good, and like I had no issue with Zelda. Not that that's bad. Same thing with Super Mario. Like I had no issue. I would never say it's a great game. It's a good game.
Yeah.
And like if I got 20 Super Mario Odyssey, anyone Super Mario Odyssey?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If I got 20 of those caliber games, I'm like, I would probably want more, because like while I know it's all back to relativity of like if I know perfect exists, I want to be like, God, this just isn't quite there.
There was very little that disappointed me more than the hype behind Super Mario, honestly. But we don't need to go into that right now.
Man, that was one of the first things we talked about.
Yeah.
Overrated, baby.
Overrated. It's just a very peculiar setting here. Like, I'm trying to think. So what do you think this year? What do you think the perfect game is?
This year, so far, I don't think there is one. I think God of War is probably the closest. God of War and Monster Hunter, maybe.
Monster Hunter's pretty high up there, too. Yeah.
But I think those are the closest. And, like, even God of War, like, once again, I think you guys are in regard definitely higher than I do. But, like, and I've also not beaten it yet. So that's also with a grain of salt. But, like, God of War didn't even capture me as much as Horizon. Yeah. Like, Horizon really got me.
Yeah.
And God of War, like, I don't think it's bad. I just think, like, the story at time is, like, kind of and then the repetitive of the same dude you fight the same Titan little dude like a million times. It's like, come on, I know you can do better than this. Whereas like probably the last game that I've super enjoyed that was perfect, sadly, is probably The Last of Us. Mm-hmm. It's obviously not sadly because it's a great game, but I just wish there was something else. And like Divinity Original Sin 2, I watched a really good amount of people play that, and like it looks awesome, and like everything about that game looks amazing. And it's like I just wouldn't enjoy that.
Yeah.
Like The Witcher is the same thing for me. Like I didn't enjoy the combat in The Witcher. But, like, The Witcher and Mass Effect are two games I love watching other people play. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just don't like them. It's like, not my cup of tea.
Yeah, I feel you.
I'm still curious to see if Red Dead will usurp the throne, because I think that's the only other game that could really take it this year.
I don't think it's going to.
I don't think
solely because I think it's going to fall to the same fate of Spider-Man. Yeah. Because Spider-Man, if you would have asked all of us 6 months ago, we were like, hey, this year is, like, seemingly going to be Monster Hunter v. God of War v. Spider-Man v. Red Dead. Yep. And it was like, the Spider-Man's going to be Game of the Year hype, or it's a contender. So as it got closer, it was like, is it going to be a really good game? Like when it comes out, everyone's like, it's good. Yeah. It's not great.
It's
good.
People really getting excited solid for it, but they weren't touting it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, everyone's like, I enjoyed it. And no one's like, I loved it.
If you were on Twitter this weekend, you wouldn't have known, because it was just blown up with screenshots and people discussing.
Yeah, I definitely. What's odd?
Launch hype.
Yeah, it was definitely a ton of hype for the launch, and I think this is a huge like fighting point for Friday releases. Yeah. Because I feel like if this gets released on a Tuesday,
I want to tee for timeouts real quickly. Are you going to have a topic?
Don't have to.
Okay. My topic is going to be about Spider-Man.
Okay.
I want to talk about it, field questions, all that. So if you have any concerns about spoilers, now is the time to jump off. You're getting a 5-second-ish time frame in which I'm going to not be talking about anything because we can
talk about the photo modes.
Exactly, go on that. So 3, 2, 1. You have not left, which means you're okay. I'm not going to spoil the story, but we are going to talk about things within the game. So if you are sensitive at all,
He's shirtless Spider-Man.
Bah.
I do think that the Friday release date. This is the we saw Skyrim 100%. Do this in 2011 maybe. And I think Skyrim was the first time I was like, oh, cool, this is a game coming on Friday. That's weird.
Yeah.
Because it came on like 11/11/11. And then it came out, and it was like all we talked about for the weekend. And this was like, Twitter's not that big. Facebook is not that big. But like legit, every person I knew was like, how far did you get Skyrim this weekend?
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, you guys are serious.
Yeah.
Well, one of the trending news stories on Twitter, like if you went to the trending section, was Spider-Man PS4 photo mode. Capturing people. Like they're just obsessed with it, which I agree with 100%.
And I thought it was so cool because there was so much stuff that came from the photo mode, from like how many people were like posting like, oh, like Spider-Man Pride, and it'd be like LGBT stuff and like the flags and whatnot. Or like, did you hear the story about the guy's engagement?
Yeah.
Oh man, that hurts. You didn't hear about this?
There's a really sad Easter egg in which, like it's like 6 months ago.
Yep.
He reached out to someone via Twitter who worked at Insomniac.
Studio head at Insomniac.
Yeah, and it was like, hey, I want to do this grand gesture. I want to propose to my girlfriend. I want to make it big. So just don't. It doesn't matter where. Just put it somewhere in the game, and gave them a phrase of like,
Madison, will you marry me?
And so
side note, guy's Twitter, by the way, is like his Twitter account is like all Spider-Man, like super Spider-Man fan, like all over it, right?
So a game comes out, and people are like, "Oh, I found this." He starts getting tweets about it. They broke up 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
What?
She left him for his brother.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
And what's funny is he replies to it or whatever, and he reached out to him and he's like, I want to thank them. Like, I think it's super awesome. Like, this should just teach people to like reach out for your dreams. Like, anything's possible. And like, obviously didn't work out for me, but hopefully it works out for somebody else.
And they reached out to him stating like, we'll remove it if you want. Well, it's a quick patch.
Wow.
We will remove
That's
it
awesome.
if need be.
Yeah, and he's like, nah, I want to keep it. It's like a memento.
It's a memento.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. But look, there's lots of that coming out of this. A couple things I want to touch on was in the UK, this is the fastest selling game of the year. This is probably the best selling game of all time in the UK. It beat out contenders like God of War. It nearly doubled God of War sales. First week sales.
Smokes.
What is impressive to me about this is
it's the largest selling Marvel game over there as well.
Yep. What's impressive to me about it is I always find it so odd that obviously we have Hollywood and so much content is based upon the U.S. even if you're not in the U.S., right? Yeah. I find it very odd because like after thinking about it, because I read that stat and I was like, cool, that's awesome. And I was like, well, I mean, it is New York. That's like the biggest city in the world. I was like, why is there never anything like this in London or Paris and stuff? Like maybe that would be bigger, but it's still really impressive to me that like a New York City-based Spider-Man game that like seemingly has nothing to do with the UK is like the biggest game to come out in the UK.
Well, and it was super interesting talking about the game specifically because I was hearing a few people talk about it, and they're like, someone asked, is this the best, is it because Spider-Man? Is that the reason why it's selling so well? I was like, well, I mean, maybe, but we've also had previous Spider-Man games, and they didn't sell this well. And they also weren't great games, whereas this is a fantastic game.
Yep.
I mean, Spider-Man's also hot because of Marvel, so it definitely seems like the cauldron of like perfect circumstances coming together. Right. But I don't think it would have sold nearly as well had Insomniac, like had the games not come out and given it anywhere between 8.5 and 9.5. So...
Yeah, I definitely, and to me it's so fascinating because like I said, it was definitely one of those games where the hype was super high.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like how many people, I guess like if Red Dead tanks, people are going to give them hell.
Yeah.
Like forever. Rockstar is going to get rocked. Yeah, like people are just going to just belittle them.
Like it's not going to suck.
Right, I'm just saying, but if it does. Whereas like if the Spider-Man game sucks, everybody's like, another crappy superhero game.
So
like it's basically there's nothing to lose. Like sure, it's a little hype, but like
There's a lot for Insomniac though.
You're all in. Yeah, but I mean like most people like when you think of Red Dead, you're like, okay, cool, that's GTA, that's Rockstar. Like they're huge. When you think of Insomniac, you're like, okay, cool, they make like kid games. They're not the biggest, they're not the smallest studio. They're like
Ratchet and Clank is not a child's game.
Sir.
I don't.
It's rated E for everyone, right?
I don't think you're wrong because it's Marvel. Like Marvel has made crappy games since the NES.
Every super game.
Like if this had come out and been a bad game, people have been like, okay, well, on to the next one. Like Red Dead's at the end of the year, it's fine. I do think that because there is hype around it, and people are still excited about it, like even today you're on Twitter, like any news, people are still talking about it. Like the game isn't bad.
The
it's
marketing was
arguably great compared to amazing. Like it's not the amazing Spider-Man.
I was waiting for this.
It's the great Spider-Man. And so like I was at GameStop Thursday night because GameStop and other retailers allowed you to buy it at 9 p.m. East Coast time, which is odd in of itself how that works out.
Is it 6 p.m. West Coast time?
Yeah.
It's a great time for them. I want to be out there.
Yeah, if they're allowed to. I don't know if they are. But anyways, so stood in line. I was there with 50 other people because NBA 2K19 also came out that night. So they were pretty much all there for that. But, I mean, everyone I talked to in line, their exact words were, if I wasn't here for NBA, I'd be here for Spider-Man. And then, of course, there was the odd Spider-Man person there. I went and popped it in, played all weekend, and I couldn't put it down. Like, it is an open world game. If you don't like some of the stereotypes of open world games, like towers that show parts of the map or collectibles or side missions, like you're not going to like this game.
Yeah.
But the way this game feels is fucking amazing.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for me is that like what you're describing, while it's not bad at all. Like when I think of games like similar games that I would categorize, I guess, above it. Like I think like the Far Cry series, right?
Yeah.
Very similar vein, like very similar open world. I would say Spider-Man has more stuff in it because it's obviously New York City versus like this weird little island of nowhere. But like of all the Far Cry games, I don't think any of them are bad. However, the only one of them I would say, in my opinion, is great is probably 3, and that's because the villain is just unreal in 3. But like that's to me is what takes that from like, hey, it's a good open world game to hey, this villain is great, which makes the game better.
You didn't like 4?
I didn't hate 4. I just like I think the villain in 3 with the definition of insanity guy, like
yeah,
he's just the best for me. And that's how I kind of feel about Spider-Man. Like, well, I definitely think it's a bad game. I definitely think it's way better than average game.
I feel like it's important to note that you haven't played it.
I have not played it.
Yeah.
I've watched a little bit of people play it and whatnot, and like it looks fun to zip around the city.
Yeah.
It totally, to me, you know, granted I'm not always the normal here. To me, it looks like it'd be like that'd be really cool for like an hour, and then like I may get bored, and hopefully the story would keep me in.
So I thought something similar, especially like starting the zip around the city. I was like, this is really cool. It's smooth.
Yep.
The one thing Insomniac did really well is that there are mechanics built into the game from the get-go that prevent you from losing momentum, and then you unlock skills that make you move even faster. So like there's a skill that allows you to continue your vertical momentum by just zipping. You just tap X and you just zip, like gives you a little boost.
I keep seeing the Spider-Man Iron Man gif where he basically like I guess gets a whole bunch of momentum, then launches himself up, and he's just like this.
Oh, it's so good.
Like just going like well above the city, just keep on going and going up.
It's amazing. There's another ability in which you can run up a wall, and as you get to the top, you tap X, and it slings you over, so you like continue your forward momentum. Wow. If you run into a wall while web slinging, it doesn't stop you. It continues the direction you're going. So if you're pressing up on your joystick, that's weird, analog stick, it runs into the wall and it runs you up the side of the building. So there's no stopping. I hit on New York, they have a lot of fire escapes. I hit a fire escape, he just starts webbing the fire escapes and continues moving. Like there's nothing
that's the best
to prevent you from stopping what you're doing, and it's genuinely fun. I've unlocked fast travel. I never use it.
Yeah,
like because it's just fun for me to be like, well,
I'll
just take the time. There's nothing here. I've completed all the side quests. I've done all the collectibles. It's just fun going around the city.
That's what I have heard is the, I guess, weak point of the game is while it may be a very large city, the city is kind of like outside of the main quest, I guess. Maybe the side quests are a little limited, or the interactivity of the random people, I guess.
The interactivity of the random people is definitely limited. You can do a few things, but the side quests are there. Again, if you just don't like open world games or you don't like that kind of
You're just not going to like it.
You're not going to like it. The side quests themselves, most of them are deep. They're interesting. Some of them are funny. Some of them are kind of silly. Some of them involve Spider-Man's lesser known villains, which I really enjoyed knowing the lore a little bit more.
Yeah.
The one thing I appreciate is that the map is open from the beginning and there's nothing impeding you afterwards. So unlike most open world games where it is about forging forward to get to know the world, you could become intimate with this world.
Yeah.
Like there are things that force you to like learn the landmarks. There's one quest where they're like, hey, we need you to go here. All we have is this picture. By the time you get to those quests, you probably know where that is because you've been swinging around the city so much. Now you're like, Oh, I know. Yeah, that's where it is. I'm learning Manhattan without living there.
That's awesome.
So.
Yeah, I definitely think a lot of the stuff seemingly is awesome. I think on the story frontier, the one thing that would have, not that the villain I think is weak necessarily, or not that I obviously don't know the story.
Yeah.
The selling point of that though is to me weak. Like it's just very hard to sell. Like if you were like, cool, hey, the villain is Venom, the villain is Venom, then that's like I think that could have made the sell better.
Yeah.
But I think that plays much more into the game itself because it's like if you put Venom in there, the expectations go up.
Yeah,
Whereas
I do agree
there's no expectations because it's like 90% of people are like, who's that guy and why does he not got color on his face? That's weird.
It was super weird. The game, the story is very much a vanilla Spider-Man story. If you know any of the mythos, you're going to see some things. There were certain times where I was like on the screen like, Peter, how can you not see? Like, what he's saying is terrible. He's obviously going to become somebody. So things like that. Like, it definitely doesn't throw any curveballs. It doesn't really play with the lore as much as I had hoped, which is one of my disappointments with the story. That being said, it's a good Spider-Man story.
Yeah.
The fact that Mr. Negative was the major marketing point seems very odd to me.
Yeah.
But it makes sense for the story as to where it goes.
Right.
Because you're right. Not a whole lot. He's a fairly new villain. I think he's maybe 5 years old at most. At most.
And on top of that, like, even I've dropped into a couple of streams because a couple
Yeah.
people I followed have been playing it. And, like, jumping into some of the screens, I guess when you're either in the cutscenes with him or fighting him, I'm not certain which it is, it is very weird to watch. Because it's like it goes, like, monochromatic and, like, black and white, and he's, like, zipping around and stuff, and you're like, what the is this?
It does it in both, and honestly, the human anatomy, the way they put it together, is very odd to me. Like watching MJ the first time, like I saw her on screen, I was like, this is just weird. It's something with their teeth. It's something about how they do facial features and teeth, but it's not bad. It's just once you're used to it, like okay, that is a human being.
You know, like the Assassin's Creed like face deleting bug thing that got super popular, or whatever. There's a bug in this that I keep seeing on Twitter, and it's most common. And it may only be this guy. I've not really seen it outside of this, but it's this Asian man, and his face like super derps. It's like part of his face that kind of claps in. He's like that or some weird ugly looking face thing or whatever, and
super.
It's just amazing. I sent it to one of my buddies, Brandon, who is an Asian male, and I was like, Brandon, man, they put you in the game. He's like, I hate you so much.
The game crashed on me 3 times in my roughly 30-hour playthrough, and then there was one sequence where a character was in a cutscene, and she had her skin on, and then laid over it was definitely a texture for something else that had an alpha to it, so it was like transparent, so you could see like the coloration of like green, and I'm like, that's gotta be like she's got like some sci-fi visor on, right? And I started, nope, that's just okay.
That's a bug.
Was a glitch.
That's a bug.
That's fine. But other than that, I really haven't run into a whole lot. The game runs fairly smoothly. There's some parts of it that I'm just amazed at how they got it done, because there's definitely parts where I'm like, man, this is a technological feat.
I know. I was just a side tangent. I've seen now. We talked about this last week when you weren't here. The concept of off the wall video game ideas we never really thought of, and I've seen so much of since this came out. Everyone's like been pitching like, oh, we should do a Superman game like this, or oh, we should do a Batman game like this. It'd be really cool. And I was reading on Twitter, somebody was talking about how they think the Spider-Man game is super awesome. The way the city works is super awesome. They just were talking about how like it's very odd that there's not a big game mechanic around day and night, like in terms of like how the city acts and whatnot. And like just imagine if you did a Batman where basically during the day you had to be Bruce Wayne, and during night you could be the Batman, or you could be Bruce Wayne. But like it's like, hey, I need to go to this like big dinner thing or whatever, right? And it's like you can go as Bruce Wayne or you can go as Batman, but you make that choice. Yeah. And that could totally change the event. Like if you're Bruce Wayne, you got to handle like this. But if you're Batman, you can just, lurk up top, and if it goes south, you swoop in and save the day. Yeah. And I was just seeing the success of this Spider-Man. I'm hoping, which I don't hate the Arkham games. I think the Arkham games before this were the absolute best superhero game.
And they steal a lot from Arkham.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is great. Because Arkham did it best so far. You're right.
Backpack hunts. I was really hoping that instead of the Game Over Greggy Easter egg being Game Over Greggy hidden in the little thing, I was hoping it was a suit.
Yeah, a lot of people were.
With a chest hair and his eye.
A lot of people were, which it still worked out well. It's that level, because so many people send screenshots. It's really cool how it's lit because it forces you to go that direction. So you're not really going to miss it unless you just don't know what it is, which I was like, all right, that's nice. The combat mechanics I wanted to touch on because they're like Arkham. in the sense that you are like just pounding on people, you're reacting, you're dodging, but it's not as counter heavy like Assassin's Creed can be or those Arkham games. You're not waiting for the opponent to attack, you're attacking them.
Yeah, that's good.
Which I really liked. And the way it's designed is that you pretty much should always be in the air. Like, he fights well on the ground, but you want to be in the air. The triangle button allows you to zip instantly to the nearest enemy, which I really like. So if you're across the way, it's like...
You want to be super aggressive.
Yeah. You can also hold it and throw objects, webbed enemies. Like, there's a lot of versatility. You gain new abilities in combat that become surprisingly useful. And then your suits also have powers.
Yep.
But your powers aren't stuck to your suit.
You can interchange them.
So you can customize it and wear the suit you want with the power you want, which is by far the greatest thing they did.
Yeah. I do think one of the things that I'd heard online is a lot of people saying that this is the best superhero game to make you feel like a superhero.
Yes.
Whereas like Batman, like you just feel like a cool bare knuckle brawler basically because you basically just punch people to death.
Yeah.
Whereas this, it seems like, no, I'm going to pick up a mailbox and whack you with it, wham, or I'm going to do this thing. It makes you feel very super and very empowered, I guess.
They have really good environmental use in the gameplay, and there are gadgets, and they're on a gadget wheel. So rather, the one thing that I think limits the Arkham franchise, and I hope they kind of move away from it, is that they did a really good job of putting in shortcuts where you can double tap a triangle button and he throws a batarang. Yeah. But the problem with that is that you have a limited number of buttons and combinations before you run out. So
circle, circle, square, square, X, triangle, sec.
So Batman is limited to literally 5 shortcuts for different things, which means that's all he gets. Like, he doesn't get anything else.
Yeah.
So whereas Spider-Man has a weapon wheel that has 8 gadgets on it, each one unique, like fairly unique. So I would love that kind of interplay there. I really hope Rocksteady looks at this and goes, okay, well, I know they're working, they're master class. It's not like they are suffering or anything.
Would you say that they roll on?
But I really hope they look at this and go, hey, this can be done. We can make a Batman in a city that's alive. Like, this story takes place over weeks, not one night. Like, there's actual time movement. Some missions will put you out so that you're in New York City at night, so you get to play around there or during the day. Like, after you beat the game, I think you can actually change time. But
I hate fantasizing about games that aren't real. Like this game, like I think this is super awesome, but like to me, like not to dismiss or say that it's not super awesome or anything like that, but like how cool would it be like if the day and night environment's really affected, or like if there were seasons, like hey, it's like winter and now snow and crap, and like I can't run on top of the edges of roofs now. I can only use the sides or whatever. Just stuff like that. Same thing with Batman, and I've always kind of felt the way. Batman, I think they do like a single night really well.
Yes.
And it's like, I don't want to play a night. I want a week or a month.
I agree with
or
that.
like a quarter or whatever you want to give me, but not a night.
Yeah. I think that'll change with the next one. But this is like the perfect template for a franchise. This is by
the
far
greatest
away,
starting point.
Yeah, not going to be, this is Batman Arkham to the Arkham franchise. Like, this is very much, hey, we played it safe in the story. We played it safe with a little bit of like how the open world works. Next step, get risky, because they totally
risk it for the biscuit. If you're Marvel,
I see them trying to do a Spider-Man in the same kind of tone, or a Superman, and just failing.
Who, Rocksteady?
Yeah.
If they do anything, it won't be a straight Superman game. It'll be a Justice League game, because it allows them. Once again, it's that safe step that allows you to risk.
That was my question: is if you are Marvel / Insomniac now, and if you're at that Marvel / Insomniac meeting of the sequel, do you do sequel, or do you do second Avenger character?
So I think you definitely do a sequel, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't incorporate more of the Avengers. This is very much Spider-Man. Like, there are tons of Easter eggs to the rest of the Marvel universe. I heard some people who were complaining, they're like, oh, I wish this was more like the MCU where there's like more stuff. I'm like, this is literally a Spider-Man game. What are you complaining about? It has Easter eggs like a Spider-Man movie has Easter eggs.
There's the Avenger Tower.
I think there was only
Tower.
one other good Spider-Man game, and I think it was on the GameCube. I want to say.
The greatest gif right now about that is it's like Sony players, and it's got like a really cool transition of the Spider-Man on the new Spider-Man, and it's like meanwhile Xbox players, and they're playing the Lego one where it's just like little things.
There's a lot of little touches that I love about this game. I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna ruin that one.
But so you would choose a sequel over a build to Avengers?
100%. This is such a great template. Where they go from here, I haven't finished the story. I'm 75% of the way through the game. I'm going to go home and play some tonight after this. I imagine their next step is going to be either Venom, Green Goblin, like someone more iconic.
The Green Goblin was my initial thought when I first heard the game, and then when I saw that it was Mr. Negative, I was like,
so there's
not that it's bad. It's just more of like, I feel like, and granted, like you said, totally safe, totally probably a great starting point. Like, to me, it's like, I don't want you to hit the double to left field. I want you to smash us out of the fucking stadium, and I want you to kill it.
I think the reason they made that decision is that this is an established Spider-Man. He's 8 years into his game, so like he's at the beginning of the game. This is not a spoiler. Like his other villains are in prison. So like Vulture, Scorpion, all of them. We saw in the trailer where they all break out. Like that all happens. But I do think that going with Mr. Negative was interesting because it let the story build slower. It's the one thing I do lament about the Arkham games is like the one night always starts off as something bad and it goes to worse, and there's no real trajectory other way it could go.
Yeah.
Whereas this game starts with a victory and then it kind of just slowly builds, and not in a way where it feels plotting. It's just interesting. You get to learn, like you being someone who's not familiar with Mr. Negative, you'll get to learn real quick about who he is, his motivations, why he's doing these things. And it's interesting. It actually gave them a platform to build up that character more. I do think having a more iconic villain like Dr. Octopus or Venom or
the Green Goblin. See, that's to me like
is really going to knock it, and that's what 2 is for.
Yeah,
right.
And see, that's what I think. That's weird. I saw that movie and it freaked me out. That's what to me Venom is like your final boss, so to speak. Of like that's like the big one. Whereas like I wish this one was like. I think Green Goblin got a lot of PR because was it the first Amazing Spider-Man or the first
Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, whatever that one was. I feel like that one really made like Green Goblin like like very mainstream popular. Where it's like before that is like it's pretty much Venom and Doc Ock.
No, because Green Goblin comic wise has always been Peter's. He's his Joker.
Yeah. But see, he's like always the Joker, but like it's never like. I don't know. To me, he's never been like the cool villain, I guess, or the one like you want to see. Like, I always want to see Venom.
I think the movie made him way more popular, in the mainstream.
Because to me, it's always been like, if you like Spider-Man, you want to see him with villain, and then Doc Ock, I think, is like another one where it's like, I guess that's how I always think of old Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But that's why I think you could take the Green Goblin or Doc Ock, and that could be your first one, and be like hey, we're testing the waters here. But I do agree that still the Green Lantern is really fresh in most people's mind, and then Doc Ock is really not.
Yeah.
Although you do have the Croc.
I would say.
Or Electro. Electro would have been cool.
You have the Lizard, not the Croc. Croc's Batman.
Yeah.
Killer Croc's Batman. The Lizard is Spider-Man.
No, what's the new Spider-Man? Who's fight? It's the Lizard.
The Lizard, yeah.
Yeah.
You said the Croc.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I personally, if I'm writing this, next sequel, like next game, you involve Green Goblin or Dr. Octopus, one of the big heavy hitters, whoever that may be. You need more power, you get the black suit. Black suit's corrupting you, end on a cliffhanger. Game 3 is Venom.
What's amazing is if you did that and the suit corrupts you, but you don't really know, like you can't tell.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, you're helping this lady with her purse, but then you realize you actually like stole it and like helped this other, and you're like, whoa, I didn't mean to do that. And you're like, oh, well, that's what happens when you wear the suit.
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool to see like almost like a Captain America game. Or a Hulk.
I think so many.
There was an excellent Hulk game on PS2, I think, is what it was. It was like made like a GTA game, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
I think that this to me makes me want an Avengers. The issue is I think that 2 of the games are so unrealistic to make, and I think Iron Man and Thor, like both of those games would just be so hard. Yeah. Like the Hulk, I could get pretty easy. Captain America, cool. Just World War II Captain America. Like you know how like OP and superhero you'd feel. If you're like in the middle of those dudes have guns and you have a shield that they can't do anything about, and you just zipping and bouncing shields off their head, like you'd feel like a baller. But like Thor, like what are you gonna do?
Well, I mean, Square Enix is making that Avengers game, and I do think that rather than trying to give Thor his own game or Iron Man his own game, you make an Avengers, right? But you do like the original movie where it's a core team of just 5. Like, you don't need much more than that. Sure, people can come in. You give them skins to interchange. Oh, Iron Man's War Machine, whatever. But
why don't we? This is a dumb concept, and I don't understand why we've never done it. Why is there not an MMO that's the Avengers, but it's not it doesn't have to be the cookie cutter Avengers. Like you have a smart, like you're a superhuman intelligence. You can be Iron Man, right?
Yeah.
But you can make whatever character you want. You don't have to be Tony Stark, but you're like the superhuman smart guy, or you're the Asgardian, or you're the psychopathic guy that gets really big. So you can still customize them.
This sounds like
Or you're the archer.
DCU or DCEU online or whatever,
Yeah.
but with Marvel. And
Yeah.
they went the opposite route where you just got characters, and they just closed that MMO down.
A DC Universe Online.
No,
No,
that
the
one's
other
closing
one.
soon.
Oh yeah, you're talking about the whatever the Marvel one was,
'cause
where
they
you
went
just straight chose it.
Yeah, because they went the opposite direction where you could just choose.
The
a
Marvel one I
hero.
thought was neat, but like you just chose 2 powers, and it's weird. I just
Yeah.
wasn't. It was like, oh, I'm fast and I can fly. Neat.
I liked what the DC Online was doing, but I hated that it was so like you're under the tutelage of Superman. I would have much preferred a more organic thing like you're talking about. Like, no,
Yeah.
you're Asgardian.
Yeah, you
Like,
can
you're-
do whatever you
you're-
want. Yeah, you can be a Valkyrie,
Yeah.
you can be Loki, you can be
Whatever.
Thor, whatever.
But
It just impressed me. There's not been something like that. The biggest draw for me of the DC one was Game Over Greggy Swift. I was like, why is that such a cool character? Why are you such a gangster?
So Dylan and I have been talking a lot, but do either of you have any questions or comments, or you want to know anything? I know I'm going to hand off the game to you soon-ish.
Probably.
Yeah.
Halfback draw.
What's that?
Halfback draw. Hand to going up the middle.
No, I don't have anything now. I'm just excited to see what it looks like.
Yeah, it's such a gorgeous
Yeah,
game.
I'm to hear that the movement mechanics, which is what I was worried about,
Yeah.
because of previous games. But I'm super excited now that it's fluid. I was really worried. I was like, this is gonna be dredge. This is gonna suck.
I think you're really going to like this game.
Oh,
This is a John-ass game.
Yeah, no, I know, hands down. That's why I've been trying to be super lighthearted about like what I know and don't know. Like
Yeah.
half the time I ignored everything you said.
You do that anyway.
Huh?
It's not a lie. It's not a lie. So that will be it for this episode of Strange Conversations. If you have any more Spider-Man questions, you can direct message me at the Twitter handle that was at the very beginning under my moniker, Head Chef. It's also up here somewhere in the comment section, in the description.
The comment section, they actually
Yeah.
pop up right above here.
Right above the thing. We are here every week where we like to record this train wreck that we call a podcast. But the Strange Gaming Network has other shows. Dylan, do you have anything you would like to pimp?
We have a couple people streaming the Blackout beta. Yeah, Blackout beta.
Yep.
We've also been playing the Battlefields. We have a Discord, which I can start putting in the description as well. Join that,
Yeah.
chit chat, post things. We post funny links, weird pictures, dumb stuff.
Funny can be subjective, so be careful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not NSFW. Just
Does anybody else have anything they want to pimp or talk about before we end?
my
the
ride
show?
would be great.
I mean, if you're willing to do it and pay for it. Until next week, bye.
They forgot. Woo!